Justin Trudeau's Liberals have a brand new star candidate in Quebec. He's a former Tides-funded anti-oil activist and the co-founder of Equiterre. Today I'll show you just a few of the details of his past because there are too many to stuff into one video. The Liberals' new star candidate in Montreal doesn't support the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion project, but that should come as no surprise to anyone since Steven Guilbeault is the co-founder of a radical far left-wing oil-hating organization called Equiterre. Now, according to the National Observer, the former government, that's Stephen Harper's government, also funded new Canada Revenue Agency audits to investigate Guilbeault's former organization, Equiterre, and other environmental organizations. Now, those audits were canceled by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, and Guilbeault officially left Equiterre in October 2018. From there, Steven Guilbeault went on to contract work for the federal government as one of their clean growth leaders, co-chairing the Climate Advisory Panel. Guilbeault was basically the Liberals' own Sephora Berman. Now, that was back in November, and Guilbeault has now decided to just sort of cut out the middleman. Instead of taking a paycheck to contract with the government to then tell the government what to do, he can just take a paycheck and be the government. Now, before Guilbeault founded Equiterre in 2007, he was with Greenpeace, being a lunatic and embarrassing the entire country on an international scale. He was one of two Greenpeace activists who scaled the CN Tower in 2001, and after they climbed up to the observation deck at the top, they hung a banner reading, "Canada and Bush, Climate Killers." Equiterre received funding directly from the Tides Foundation that was specifically targeted at Alberta. This is directly from the Tides Foundation funding documents. In 2009, Equiterre, with Guilbeault at the helm, received a $60,000 grant from the Tides Foundation for the official tar sands campaign to landlock Alberta's oil and gas. In 2011, Tides Foundation granted Equiterre another $50,000 for research, education, and outreach on climate and tar sands related issues. In 2012, Guilbeault and Equiterre received $45,000 from Tides for the exact same purposes as the previous year: research, education, and outreach on climate, tar sands related issues. Now, here's the letter calling on Trudeau to overhaul the National Energy Board, which Trudeau has now effectively done with the passing of Bill C-69. The letter is co-signed by Guilbeault, of course. Guilbeault, though, he doesn't really trade in reality much. Here is his statement from the very first time the Kinder Morgan Trans Mountain Pipeline project was approved by the federal government. He said, "The National Energy Board is completely out of touch with the overwhelming opposition in British Columbia to this project." Guilbeault went on to say, "The Kinder Morgan pipeline faces large opposition in the lower mainland of BC from 20 municipalities, including Vancouver and Burnaby, representing over 2 million people, as well as from 17 First Nations in BC and Alberta." Well, over here, back in the real world, we know that at least 60% of British Columbians surveyed support TMX and only 29% oppose it. And 43 Indigenous groups with interests affected by the Trans Mountain Pipeline have signed agreements in support of the pipeline construction. In this video that I won't make you suffer through, you can thank me later, Guilbeault rails against the now abandoned Energy East pipeline project with the help of the Council of Canadians. I wonder if the Saudis sent him a fruit basket for all of this. Speaking of the Saudis, if Guilbeault were a lobbyist for OPEC, I'm not quite sure what he would be doing any differently than what he's done the last 20 years. He was also part of the Council of Canadians delegation to Europe to lobby against Canadian oil and gas. And here he is, back in 2013 with a Christmas message, spreading rumors and fear-mongering about oil sands development. He said, "We are at a crossroads with two projects to move oil from the oil sands to Quebec, an oil that is largely for export and is wreaking havoc in all spheres of society. We believe that elected Quebecers should not vote on these projects until they know the truth about the oil sands, said Stephen Guilbeault, Senior Director of Equiterre. The oil sands truth is the result of many years of research and was designed to illuminate the current debate over the oil sands boom in Canada, which is also impacting Quebec. The initiative was launched by the Tar Sands Solutions Network, and all the facts that it contains have been reviewed by a scientific advisory committee. Now, here's what Guilbeault said when the Liberals were first courting him to be a candidate just a few short weeks ago. You can't fight against climate change in Canada and reach ambitious targets without measures that deal with the pollution caused by the oil sands, Mr. Guilbeault said. If there was a deal with a province and that province is no longer willing to live up to its part of the deal, the federal government must ask itself some questions about what it plans to do. You see, Guilbeault wants to target Alberta and come after our new carbon tax-hating premier, and the Liberals, well, they're just fine with it. Guilbeault has also been a keynote speaker at Liberal Party conventions. As far back as 2010, he was warning us that he would indeed someday run for politics. I guess he was just waiting for a Liberal leader dumb enough, radical enough, and anti-Alberta enough to have him. Now, tell me, folks, now that the Liberals have accepted Guilbeault as a candidate for their party in the next election, how serious are the Liberals about getting that pipeline done? For the Rebel.media, I'm Sheila Gunn Reid. I'm sure you've seen the news by now. Big Tech and Google are censoring conservatives all over the place. But there's a really easy way to help us get around that censorship and spread the message. Like, share, and subscribe to our Rebel content.